When John asked me if I'd speak about baseball in our community and how baseball has impacted all of us, I was happy to do that. As you can see, baseball's been a big part of my life. But it's possible that you don't recognize, even if you're not a baseball fan, how much baseball has impacted all of our lives outside of the game itself. Now, my mom told me when I was a baby, brand new baby, that my dear grandpa put an old baseball in my crib. And she wasn't very happy about that. But maybe some magic rubbed off of that ball, because baseball certainly has had an impact in my life. I played my whole life till I was 55. This is the last time I was in a tournament. I volunteered with the Manitoba Baseball Association. I coached for years with my kids. And then I started the business in a hockey country. I started a baseball business. And then I got this dream job as the GM of the Goldeyes. Well, all of that stuff helped me frame a reference to baseball and the power that it has. In particular, when I played for two small towns, Giroux, Manitoba, and Lake and Grandview, up near Dauphin. And how important baseball was to that community. Grandview was only 1,000 people, but on Friday night when we played, there was 1,500 people came to watch. And I just realized the power that game had, in particular in rural Manitoba. It was very exciting to be a part of that. So why baseball? What do I like about baseball that's special? Well, first of all, size doesn't matter in baseball. Little guys can be the best players on the team. And I like that fairness. I mean, there's not many little guys playing basketball, but in baseball, there's lots of them. Think of this, the defense has the ball in baseball. What other sport does the defense actually have the ball? Now, maybe that's not important, but I find it interesting. And the last one I'll say is that in baseball, you can never run out the clock. You have to get the third out in the last inning. And as John could tell you, that third out in the last inning is sometimes the very hardest to get. So I love watching baseball. I love all the nuances of baseball. And thank goodness, because on those days when it was a long, hard day and a long homestand, and I was really tired, but my work was done about the sixth inning of a Goldeyes game, I could sit in the stands and watch baseball. And for me, that was a very good thing. Now, how has it permeated all of us in our society? Think of the phrases we use in the English language in North America. This is a brand new ball game. Well, that came from baseball. You hit a home run with that idea. That came from baseball. Or maybe you threw me a curveball. And when John said to me that last night he got to first base, I knew exactly what he was talking about. He had either got a single or he'd walked to get, on base at the ball game last night. I just find all of that, how baseball has infiltrated all of our lives, to be pretty relevant. And then there's one other guy I'm going to mention, a guy that is quoted more than any other human being on earth. And his name is Yogi Berra. And Yogi played professional baseball for the New York Yankees for years. And I'll just give you a couple of his most famous sayings. No one goes there nowadays. It's too crowded. When you come to a fork in the road, take it. And it ain't over till it's over. There's hundreds of them from Yogi, but those sayings are very common, and that we all use them or think of them or know of them or smile at them. Now, the beauty for me, being a baseball guy, is that when I went to the All-Star game, the Goldeyes All-Star game was in New Jersey one year. And attached to that minor league ballpark is the Yogi Berra Museum. Now, because he's from New Jersey. So we go a day early, and we're having a reception in this Hall of Fame museum. I'm looking forward to seeing it, because I always like to the Yankees and Yogi. And I walk in and there's the actual Yogi Berra sitting in a chair in the front foyer. So, and he smiles at me, gives me this big smile. And I walk over towards him. And when I get close, I realize he's not smiling at me. He's smiling at the guy next to me, who was Hal Lanier, who was the manager of the Goldeyes. Well, Hal Lanier also played for the New York Yankees and played with Yogi. He was a teammate. So I got to sit and listen to these two guys talk about some of my all-time childhood heroes for an entire evening. It was a real treat for a baseball guy. So how is it that baseball, like when I was with the Goldeyes, and John said, you want to talk about baseball in the community? Well, it was a real fortunate thing for me that being part of the Goldeyes, we had that ability to reach out into the community and connect with people. And a lot of times that was with children, not always, but the Field of Dreams Foundation, which is their charity, which has given away about $2.4 million, all to children's charities inside Manitoba. And some of those charities, nobody had ever heard of when we first donated to them, like the horseback riding for disabled children. That charity, when it came to us, and we gave them, I forget, $1,000 maybe, that was a very big deal to them. And I thought that was fantastic, because not only is, I mean, all the charities are good purpose, everything Rotary does is for a good purpose. But some of these smaller, not well-known ones, we were able to bring more profile to them, and I really treasured that. Another thing we did in the community was I went out, or the mascot Goldie would go out, or a player, if I had a player in town, would go out into the community. And particularly in February, I remember Reading Month. So every year in February, I would go out to as many schools as I could, and I'd read to kids. Because first of all, I believe in that. And second of all, they asked me, they wanted me to come. In fact, when we took our team pictures and had our baseball cards made up, I made one up for myself for that sole purpose, so that when I was in the winter, when I was the guy who was the public face and I had no players here.
Okay, that's it. I'm on. Thank you.
I could go out and show them my baseball card, because they thought that was pretty cool. In fact, if I'm allowed to share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
That's my first baseball card that I ever had. And it was amazing how that changed the dynamic when I was dealing with the kids. So you want to guess what the number one question they would ask me? I'd read a story to them, of course. We talk about reading, but then they would get to ask me any question they wanted. You know what the number one question they asked me was? How much money did I make? I never answered that question, but we got them talking, and somebody would eventually say, well, is there a possibility that I could ever play for the Goldeyes? Now, these are grade 3, grade 4 students, and it could be a boy or a girl who would ask me that question. And the answer, of course, was always, yes, you could, because the Goldeyes will look for the best baseball players that they can find. Now, it would take a lot of work, and you'd have to work at your game, and you know, and all that. But of course, that possibility is there. And if they asked me if they could be a bat boy or a bat girl, the answer again, of course, was yes, because we actually ran programs to try and bring some kids from the community in to connect with us. But my favorite one with the kids in the community, if I was having another one of those long days and a long homestand and I was tired, we had a program called Baseball Buddies, and it ran the entire time that I was the GM. And we'd get a team from somewhere in Manitoba that they would come, they'd get a free ticket to come to the game, and they would run out onto the field and stand beside the Goldeyes player for the national anthem. Well, you can imagine how exciting that would be. So when I was having one of those tougher days, I would make sure I went down under the grandstand behind home plate to visit with the kids before the game, because just to see the excitement and the sparkle in their eyes, if that wasn't enough to make you in a better mood, then there was no hope for you. It was just one of those fabulous promotions that the Goldeyes were able to connect with our community. But it's not just the Goldeyes. I just want to talk briefly about one of the most powerful, like I know diversity is the topic or a big topic in Rotary this year. Well, baseball changed the world, I will say, for sure the United States of America. In 1947, when Jackie Robinson became the first Black baseball player to play in the major leagues. If any of you have seen the movie 42, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, you don't even have to like baseball to realize the power of that movie. It's a fantastic movie. Well, Jackie Robinson changed the country, because at that time, baseball was as steeped in tradition as any place, anything, anywhere. And for them to break the colored barrier was such a powerful statement. And it still applies today. In fact, his number 42 is the only number that nobody is allowed to wear in Major League Baseball. They retired the number across every team, that just to show how important that moment was to them. Except for one day on April 15th. On April 15th, every player, every manager, every umpire wears the number 42. So they can bring attention back. That's the day he first played a game in the major leagues. And everybody then, they bring attention back to the issue that, of course, race relations and diversity is, we still have a long way to go. And this is a symbol of what baseball did to help move that whole process along. So John told me that it would be a good idea if I asked if anybody had any questions. And so I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to talk about anything to do with Goldeyes baseball, home run sports, whatever.